All right. Love seeing everyone start tuning in. Kamusta kaayo? And what's popping, everyone? Welcome to WHIAANHPI Internship 101. If you are looking for the place to learn more about our amazing internship program, well, I'm happy to say you clicked on the correct link and came to the right place. My name is Gabriel Young, and I go by he, his pronouns, and I'm the staff assistant for the White House Initiative on Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders, also known as WHIAANHPI. Last year, I had the great opportunity to serve the Biden-Harris administration as a WHIAANHPI intern myself. And today, it is my pleasure to host our webinar. As a former intern, I'm excited for you all to learn about the program that helped me develop into the public servant I am today, and I'm looking forward to the conversations we will have today as well. For some housekeeping, just letting you all know, we will be recording our webinar, but we'll stop recording during live Q&A portions. Our webinar will be uploaded on YouTube just in case you missed a point or want to share this out. If you have any questions during the webinar, please don't be afraid to use the Q&A box down below. For those who don't know about WHIAANHPI, I'll just go over a little background. Our White House Initiative was created over 2 decades ago in 1990 when the Clinton administration signed it into order. And it has been reauthorized by every administration, both Democratic and Republican, ever since. In May 2021, President Biden signed Executive Order 14031, again, that is 14031, to reestablish and reinvigorate this historic White House initiative. And under this administration, we have the most expansive scope and mandate to date. This includes everything from tackling health, economic, and educational disparities to expanding the collection of disaggregated data, which we know is especially critical for our Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander communities. Our initiative is co-chaired by 2 members of President Biden's cabinet, U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra and U.S. Trade Representative Ambassador Catherine Tai. And our primary objective is to advance equity, justice, and opportunity for our vibrant AA and NHPI communities. We do this by leading a whole of government approach that spans interagency policymaking, program development, and outreach efforts to AA and NHPI communities, all the way from the Pacific Islands to the East Coast here of the United States, and just, everywhere in between. Now, I would like to introduce WHIAANHPI's fantastic Chief of Staff and one of our internship program directors, Jamie Locke, to share more about WHIAANHPI's internship program. Tossing it over to you, Jamie.
Thanks so much, Gabe. Hi, everyone. My name is Jamie Locke, and as Chief of Staff at WHIAANHPI, I help to coordinate our internship program and ensure students like you can get the most out of your experience with us. We received a lot of great questions leading up to this webinar, and I'd like to take some time to address many of the big ones. But first, I want to give you a brief overview of how our internship program works. And at any point, you can scan the QR code at the top right corner of this presentation to learn more about the initiative and anything I'm sharing. Up front, I also want to clarify that our initiative is housed in the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, which means that our internship program is entirely separate from the White House internship program. Next slide. Under executive order, WHIAANHPI has around 4 to 5 work streams. Those function as sub-teams within our office. We typically match students with 1 to 2 of our dedicated work streams throughout their internship experiences. That's based on their skill set, personal interest, and WHIAANHPI's immediate needs. Our focus is to ensure that you find your experience meaningful, that you can grow and succeed in your work stream, and that we can support you in your academic or professional goals. I'm going to quickly walk through our 4 core work streams. First, next slide. First is we have our communications and media team. This team drives WHIAANHPI's press strategy, supports all other work streams. The team crafts our branding, digital presence, newsletters, and more. Interns can help write talking points, op-eds, newsletters, and fact sheets. Interns also support media outreach. This includes building our press list, writing advisories, releases, and even pitching. And we're always looking for students who can help drive our digital engagement, especially those with graphic design, social media copywriting, video, and photo editing skills. Next slide. Our regional network. WHIAANHPI supports a regional network of 400 plus federal officials who will help us to engage and support our communities. The RN, as we say for short, specifically conducts outreach, they host events, and connects community members with federal resources. Interns in this work stream help with event planning, execution, outreach and engagement, meeting agenda development, and researching and vetting speakers. Next slide. WHIAANHPI also includes the President's Advisory Commission on Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders. This is a group of 25 leaders appointed by the President that meets several times a year to develop recommendations for his review. Interns assist staff who support the commission with note-taking, public meeting logistics, and other responsibilities as needed. And finally, our last work stream is the Interagency Working Group, which is comprised of senior officials who help to advance WHIAANHPI's work across the federal government. The IWG coordinates federal interagency policymaking, program development, and outreach efforts to address barriers impacting Asian Americans and Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander communities. Interns help write briefs, conduct issue-based research, and track policy deliverables from the IWG, amongst other projects. All right, next up, we'd like to share some common projects and tasks to help you envision what you could do at WHIAANHPI. We're often asked what the average day in the life of an intern looks like. While that is really tough to answer, I can say there's always something happening here, whether it be an event or a special project in development. Next slide. Who's eligible for a WHIAANHPI internship? So let's get into who's eligible. And so you would qualify if you are at least 18 years of age, enrolled in at least half-time, or accepted for enrollment in a degree-seeking program at an accredited academic institution with good academic standing. If you're authorized to work in the United States. Our interns also must pass through a security background check, which can take up to 2 months or more prior to your start date. We really ask that you only apply if you can commit to an internship for a minimum of 3 months up to 6 months. And we're flexible. We offer internships both at our headquarters in Washington, D.C., as well as virtually. For the upcoming 2024 summer and fall cycles, we are prioritizing full-time in-person applicants, though virtual and part-time applicants who can commit at least 25 hours a week, they will also be considered. Next slide. I want to briefly address some of the questions we frequently get around eligibility. In terms of status, under the federal government's Student Volunteer Service Program, we can consider any applicant who is a U.S. citizen, national, or lawfully admitted to the United States as a permanent resident or otherwise authorized to be employed, as evidenced by documents proving citizenship. If you have any questions whether immigration status may affect your eligibility, we encourage you to email us with more details about your situation. Again, in terms of educational background, we accept students who are pursuing higher education opportunities, including anyone in law school or medical school or graduate school. But because of our active enrollment requirement, it's really important to note that once you graduate, you are no longer eligible until you enrolled in another degree-seeking program. Many students come to us asking if they can participate in our program in the gap year after graduation before they start a new program. And unfortunately, that active enrollment requirement still applies. Next slide. Now we can go over the application process. If you believe that you meet those eligibility requirements I just outlined, I invite you to apply. The application process itself is pretty straightforward with 4 different stages, which you can find in detail on our website. I'll go through them briefly. So stage 1, you would email your internship preferences, your resume, as well as a written statement by the deadline of each cycle you want to be considered for. We'll accept your materials up until the deadlines listed on our website, no later than Hawaii Standard Time. The second step, if you emailed the right address, you'll receive an auto reply from our team. If you follow the directions on our site, we'll reach out to you to confirm your eligibility and preferences. The third step, after our team reviews your submission, we will invite select applicants for a quick interview and then extend our initial offers. If you receive an offer, we'll work to match your interests and needs with at least one primary work stream that I mentioned above, and we can discuss if any requests for course credit. And the last stage, everyone who applies will eventually be notified of their status after a cohort is selected. If you are one of the students who accepted an offer, we'll work with you to begin your multi-month background check. At this point, things move pretty quickly, so we encourage you to begin preparing to submit those materials on short notice. Next slide. Here are some general tips to help ensure that your application is considered in a timely manner. Make sure you are double checking everything you submit and ensuring that all the required materials are in by the deadline. If you're missing an item or late to apply, we unfortunately cannot consider your application. If you have any questions at any point of the process, please email us and we'll be glad to help you out. And we also ask that you help us help you. The more clarity that you can provide to us on your availability, your preferences, what you want to accomplish during your internship, the better we can assess your application. And finally, if you do not receive an offer, we ask that you apply again in the future if you remain eligible. And if you aren't, there's plenty of ways to stay connected with our initiative, including through our newsletter and social media. Again, feel free to scan the QR code at the top right corner to see our FAQ page regarding our internship, as well as ways to stay connected. Next slide. Before I hand it back to Gabe, here are a few final thoughts. First, we accept students with a variety of academic backgrounds. You do not need to be a poli-sci major, policy, or law student to work with us. Second, WHIAANHPI's internships are pretty flexible. There's no exact start date because the background check requirement can vary, but students who enjoy their work can spend up to 6 months with us. And that applies regardless if you choose to intern with us in our Washington, D.C. headquarters or virtually. Finally, we are more than happy to work with your school or program to determine whether the internship is eligible for course credit or not. Again, please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have any additional questions. With that, I'm going to turn it back to Gabe.
All right, salamat kaayo, and thank you so much, Jamie. I hope you all were able to get a few of your questions answered. But, again, Jamie really went over what makes WHIAANHPI special, especially our program. And while we can continue to throw information your way and tell you all to go to our website, scan that QR code, we also know that hearing from those who are interning right now is best. So without further ado, could you all please join me wherever you all in giving a drum roll to our interns as they join me on Zoom. Kind of like a little ESPN NBA style, but let's go first. Number 1, Denise Geronimo. Number 2, Haley Tran. And number 3, Kari Minhas. All right, let's give them a warm welcome all. And again, thank you all for being here. So as we get started, could you all please introduce yourselves with your name, wherever is home for you, school, year, what you're studying, and what WHIAANHPI work stream you work on.
Sure, I could get this started. My name is Denise Geronimo. I am a senior at Colorado College, and I interned with WHIAANHPI under the Communications Workstream and the President Advisories Commission on AA and NHPI. And now I'm going to pass it along to Haley.
Hi everyone, my name is Haley. Right now I'm a fourth year at the University of California, Irvine. I'm studying political science and also biological sciences, and I intern under the work streams of the Regional Network, Communications, and also the Presidential Advisory Commission.
Hi, everyone. I'm Karit, and I am a senior at Georgetown. I major in English, I minor in journalism and in French. And this summer, I worked with the Regional Network and the Interagency Working Group. And right now, I'm working primarily with the IWG and some commission work as well.
All right, y'all. Thanks y'all so much. And for everyone out there, I don't know if y'all are feeling it too, but Denise, Haley, and Karit are powerhouses. And so let's get started with some questions so you all can get to know them just like I have. So we'll get started with Denise first. So Denise, thanks so much for being here. Could you please share and describe your day-to-day engagements as an intern and what resources you accessed to support your growth?
Yes, of course. Okay, so Jamie touched a little bit on this during her presentation, but each day is a little different. You never know what you're going to expect, whether you're virtual or in person. But primarily working underneath the communications work stream and the mission work stream, I was very, very busy and running around constantly in the office, and I loved every moment of it. Under communication specifically, I was constantly writing press releases, helping with media management, helping with talking points, and I even had the opportunity to collaborate on 2 independent intern-led projects. The first being a mental health summit video interview project. So back in July, WHIAANHPI, the White House initiative, led a mental health summit for AA and NHPIs. And the interns all decided to do an interview project where we took professionals to the side and asked them what they think needs to happen for our communities to better support mental health in the nation. And it was an amazing project because we had the ability to use our own camera, use all this tech advice, and we could expand our opportunities professionally by just having so much trust in us when we were engaging in this. And we are now creating reels to put on Instagram from this event. And it's really cool to see our work be presented to everyone and to stay within the history of WHIAANHPI. Now, the second project I also had the opportunity to work on specifically was an op-ed piece that was posted on the White House blog on NHPIs, or Asian American, Native American, Pacific Islander serving institutions. And I specifically helped write about NHPIs and their importance in higher education and how the federal government needs to recognize and support NHPIs in supporting AA and NHPIs in the future as well. And under the commission, just going to my other work stream, I had the opportunity to see different aspects of how we can support AA and NHPIs on a federal level, specifically through health equity, language access, belonging, and anti-Asian hate, and more. So that's a long-winded way for me to say that there's never a day that's dull at the office. There's something you can always work on, something you can always tackle, and you always have people around you supporting you. And those people are what I specifically relied on to get me through this internship and motivate me, because it's hard. It's when you're going in as a little fish into a big pond. And I relied on my supervisors, but also my interns to constantly tell me, you've got this, we can help you with your capacity, and you're never left alone at the office. This is a full team, all hands on deck. You're never left alone. But yes, thank you so much for letting me answer that question, Gabe.
Thank you so much, Denise. Everything you said definitely threw me back to my old intern days as well. And so I really felt that the intern cohort experience is strong. So, all right, next up, Haley, you're up next. So question number 2, how has interning at WHIAANHPI empowered your career path or goals, and why?
Oh, it has changed my career path, to say the least. And so I wanted to point out something that's really unique about WHIAANHPI, which is kind of speaking to what Denise said as well, where there's something that's just very cohesive about WHIAANHPI, where you're constantly working with the other interns. You get to know all of the staff on such a regular basis and such a personal basis. But at the same time, when I was working across the 3 work streams, depending on what work stream that I was working in, it felt like I was kind of doing 3 whole different internships, just because of the amount of scope that we do and the amount of work that we do as WHIAANHPI, where there's so many different facets that we're working on all the time, that you're really getting so much experience in such little time. And I feel like that's something that's so unique that speaks directly to WHIAANHPI and the internship that we have. And so it was so helpful for me to getting to know what I was less excited to do versus what I love to do and what I wanted to focus on more within the different work streams. And so I have a little story about what kind of exemplifies this. And so I remember all of the interns, we walked in with our little intern backpacks on the first day, and then there was an event going on. It was the Pride Month event that was happening at the Health and Human Services Department. And so Jamie was so generous enough to say, you guys should stay, you should scope it out and watch as long as you want. And so we were sitting there, and all of a sudden, the US Press Secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, came out on stage and gave us an address. And I just remember being so much in shock that something so casual like that just happened to us. And reflecting back on the experience, it's crazy because in the same exact building, sometimes in the same exact room that happened, we were interviewing and filming people for the Mental Health Summit. A few weeks later, we were taking notes on the Presidential Advisory Commission. We were drafting press releases, talking points, and we were helping with regional network meetings with leads across the nation. And I think that is such an amazing thing to be a part of. And it just shows that just with this little team, we have such a large scope of what we do. And it's so, once you look back and reflect on it, it's a huge thing to be a part of. And so I feel so lucky. But at the beginning of my internship, I was a typical poli-sci student. I wanted to go to law school. I was very excited. But this internship actually made me realize that when I was working across all the different work streams, I really gravitated towards the experiences of event planning. And the things that I found most fruitful were talking to RN leads or people directly at the summits events that we were hosting. And so I really switched my career. Now I want to get an MBA and master's in public policy so I can do more public engagement work and events in government. And so I think the fact that you're able to experience so many things really allows you to experiment and figure out what you really like to do versus what you don't want to do. But thank you.
Thank you. I know definitely what you have said resonated with me. Similar thing on my end. One of my favorite events that WHIAANHPI has hosted has been our Asian Pacific American Heritage Month celebration over at my alma mater, GW, this past year, where Madam VP, Vice President Kamala Harris spoke to everyone, and that was just a life-changing thing for me. And so it's great to know that it also impacted you similarly, Haley. Next, I'm gonna call up Kareet. All right, what is a piece of advice you, Kareet, would give to students who are applying for the internship?
Thanks, Gabe. I have a couple pieces of advice. The first one is about like the application process, and the other one is like after being accepted and coming into the internship. So the first piece of advice I would give is that coming into the internship, one of the best decisions I think that I made was to apply to get placed at WHIAANHPI through a different program. There are a variety of programs that you can choose from. You can research and find what is the best fit for you, but there are a lot of programs for NHPI youth to apply to that can give you funding for summer internships in Washington, D.C. specifically. They can give you support with housing and things like that. And the program I personally applied through, and I met many WHIAANHPI alums through as well, was OCA, Asian Pacific American Advocates. They have an internship program that runs every summer. And then most of our cohort this summer also went through programs. So some other examples are the International Leadership Foundation, ILF, the Asian Pacific American Institute for Congressional Studies, APACS, and the US Asia Institute. Those are just a handful. There are probably definitely many more out there if you guys are interested in that. And, besides, providing structure and meeting other young AA NHPI students. That experience is wonderful, but I think it also just really gives you exposure to other like community issues, advocacy areas, topics of research, policy that, you know, you don't get at WHIAANHPI necessarily. At WHIAANHPI, you're doing a lot of very focused work on like what is happening within the initiative at the time. And it's very wonderful and gives you a lot of exposure. But having this kind of structure and added benefit of this program can help a lot in like adding to what you learn through the experience. And so that's one major thing that I would recommend is to find a program that works well for you and apply through that. If it turns out that there's not really any programs that are really interesting you, and that's not a way that you want to do it, I highly recommend still applying directly to WHIAANHPI through the kind of process that they've outlined so far, so kindly, Gabe and Jamie, through the website. It's pretty straightforward, but that's just one piece of advice that I think really helped a lot of us this summer throughout the process. And it just makes it a much, interning at WHIAANHPI, of course, is a very fulfilling experience, but I think it makes it an even more fulfilling experience and gives another aspect of community. And then one piece of advice that I would generally give to almost every single intern that I think would have helped me a lot coming in after being accepted is just to come into WHIAANHPI with like an idea of like a certain policy area, a certain topic of research, a certain area within WHIAANHPI, right? Like RN, IWG, commission, like something that you want to really tackle during your time at the internship. That's something that, you know, Jamie and Andrew and Gabe kind of really hammered throughout our time as interns, was to, you know, find that one thing or that few things that are you're going to set as a goal for yourself during your internship. And I think, you know, figuring that out before we even come into the internship can really help you guide yourself to, you know, setting up that coffee chat with one of the designated federal officers who maybe is a lawyer. And if you're looking into law, and then maybe that will show you that like, Haley, you don't maybe want to go to law school, you know? So like there are lots of things that you can get through the program, through the internship program at WHIAANHPI. It's so much exposure you can get. And I think that coming in with like kind of, it doesn't have to be super specific, but just knowing that there's something that you really want to work on, as vague as, you know, I want to do event planning or something like that. You know, just so you can know what work streams you want to be partnered with, can really, really help you land and start like, start off really strong with the internship. So that's my advice. Thank you, Gabe.
Thank you, Kari. I really wish I had someone like you to hear from and chat with when I was applying for the internship. So one, I'm just grateful we have this space, and I hope again to everyone in the audience that this space is helpful as well. And thank you so much, everyone. We'll now transition on to our next part, but without that, again, everyone, let's give a round of applause for our interns here. Woo! Bye, y'all. Thanks, y'all, for being here. All right, so kind of dating myself a little bit, throwing myself back into my intern days. I personally had a blast being a part of an intern cohort where we encouraged each other to be the best interns and public servants possible. So one particular colleague of mine remains a trusted friend, and I am so excited to welcome them back to WHIAANHPI. So without further ado, please join me in giving a warm welcome. Smash that like and subscribe button to my great friend, Lynn Trong, who will be moderating our intern alumni panel. All right, let's give Lynn a drum roll, please. And there's Lynn. All right, take it away, Lynn. I'll see you later.
Thanks, Gabe. Thank you so much for the warm welcome, and I'm glad to be back. And I'm excited to be presenting to y'all with a couple other folks. If Chow, Alyssa, Elizabeth, and Belinda, you would like to come onto screen, I'll do a quick introduction, and then I'm going to ask everyone else to do an introduction as well. So my name is Lynn Jung. I am currently in DC. I'm a senior at Georgetown University studying sociology and minoring in women and gender studies, following on like, oh, you don't have to study policy to do this internship type of campaign. And I am a WHIAANHPI intern alum from the comms department. So I did a lot of graphics and press releases and memos and talking points. And I call Washington State currently home. And I am going to ask Chow first. Everyone, can you do your name, pronouns, school or current workplace, where you call home, and your connections to WHIAANHPI?
Hello, I am Shao, and my pronouns are he and him. I am a senior at the George Washington University within Washington, D.C. And I call and I call Nashville, Tennessee home. And my connection to the internship was that I was within three work streams. I was within the communications. I was within the regional network, and I was within the presidential advisory commission, and I was within the presidential advisory commission work stream.
Thank you so much, Shao. Alyssa, would you like to introduce yourself next?
Sure thing. Hey everyone, my name is Alyssa Talabot. I use she, her pronouns. I'm currently a graduate student in my final year of my Master's in Public Policy and MBA program. Home is a little tricky. My dad was in the Navy, but I'll say Virginia since that's where I grew up for the most part. And I was a WHIAANHPI fellow in the summer of 2022. I wasn't formally assigned to a specific work stream, but I had a heavy focus on some of the administrative infrastructure, as well as some of the major events that we held over the summer.
All right, so I actually worked with Alyssa and Elizabeth, who will introduce themselves next. So Elizabeth.
Thank you, Lynn. So hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Lee, she, her pronouns. I graduated from the University of California, Irvine, but I currently work as a project coordinator and lead for higher education equity group at my alma mater. My hometown is Los Angeles, California, and I interned with WHIAANHPI during the summer of 2022 as well, where I really focused on the interagency working group and the Presidential Advisory Commission.
And last but not least, Belinda.
Hey everyone, my name is Belinda. I use she, her pronouns. I'm currently a product manager at Microsoft in their cloud and AI division. Also a founding board member of Act to Change, a nonprofit that focuses on bullying prevention in the NHPI community, and author. So my connection with WHIAANHPI stems all the way back to 2014, where I was an intern and then senior intern for a year. Los Angeles, California, like Elizabeth, is my home, and that's where I'm based currently.
All right, thank you so much. I think everyone's very excited to get to know y'all and your experiences here at WHIAANHPI. So I'm going to start off with Chow and ask, what was your intern cohort experience like? Just like give us like a little brief rundown of what it was like working here as an intern.
Yeah, so I would definitely say that my intern cohort experience was so fantastic. I think that one of the current interns said that within the different work streams that she was in, that it also felt like that it was just like it just felt like that it was like it was like participating. It was like participating within three internships at once, and I also feel the exact same way as well. And I also feel that with this internship that it also really helped me to hone my 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 writing and helped me to hone my helped me to hone my helped me to hone my writing and research skills as well, because because within the 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 communications work stream, I also got a chance to help out with with writing the talking points and 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 also with writing and also with writing and also with writing the press releases as well, and like and by the end of the internship, I felt that I was a much better writer and a much better 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 researcher. And I felt that once I honed those professional skills, that that it really helped me prepare to set up for the internship that I did as well at the White House this summer, where I had to do a lot of writing and research. I had to do a lot of writing and research projects as well. So so overall, I would say that my internship cohort experience was fantastic, and I got a chance to also gain so many valuable. I also got a chance to gain so many valuable connections as well, while also really honing my while also really honing my professional skills as well.
Thank you, Xiao. As someone who also was a communications intern, I definitely came out a much better writer, because you learn a lot of technical writing skills and like what type of words to use. And I definitely agree that overall the experience is fantastic. I'm still in touch with so many people from my cohort peers, as well as like my coordinator. And for our next question, I actually want to ask Alyssa. Alyssa was sort of like the person I looked up to, because she was there the longest when I started interning there, but she was also the fellow at WHIAANHPI when I was spending time there. So Alyssa, what experiences did you engage in after you interned at the initiative?
Sure, and I can provide some context. So coming into WHIAANHPI, I had 5 years in the nonprofit sector working with Southeast Asian American communities. And so my return to graduate school was informed by this desire to kind of learn languages of different sectors, right? So WHIAANHPI was my first foray really into the government sector directly. And so it really set me up nicely to return back to my graduate program to start my first year of business school. And to get that kind of sector infused into the learning environment there was really, really fun. After my first year in business school, I had an internship with a social impact consulting firm. So I was working with nonprofits and philanthropists to make an impact from kind of the business angle. And so when I kind of look at how WHIAANHPI was part of that career journey or career path that I'm on right now, it really was a very direct and robust and diverse look into the government operations at the highest levels of government and with a lot of different stakeholders. So it fit really nicely into my ways of seeing how different sectors operate and how they kind of approach the same problems, but with different lenses. So that's how I saw it as part of my path.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alyssa. So like Alyssa, Elizabeth, you also graduated, right? Yay! So
Yes.
congratulations, Elizabeth.
you.
But now that you are post-grad, I wanted to ask, how did the WHIAANHPI internship empower you for where you are now today?
Yeah, so the WHIAANHPI internship really empowered me, not just in terms of my long-term career goals and professional skills, but I think what it really means to be a part of my community and an advocate for NHPIs groups. And when I first joined, just for some context, it only been a few years since the pandemic. We saw a lot of instances of anti-Asian hate crimes and harassment. And I joined WHIAANHPI with the goal of really supporting my community. But I really didn't know how, right? There are so many different issues that we can look at, so many different ways of approaching it through advocacy, going through state and local government, federal government. So getting to be a part of WHIAANHPI, I was with an amazing, supportive team that was super driven to achieve meaningful changes for our community. And I got to explore kind of answers to my questions of what I wanted to focus on. And that's really where I felt empowered to work in policy analysis and getting policy research and changing that into actual policy suggestions and changes. So right now I work as in education equity as a student researcher and like a project coordinator for my alma mater, UCI. But that's really where I learned that I had that spark, and that's really where I wanted to go. So that's where I felt empowered with WHIAANHPI.
That's awesome. I think that WHIAANHPI, as covered in the intro section, has so many different types of work streams. And like Elizabeth and Alyssa, you kind of get exposed to so many different types of work and other people's experiences who may be much farther in their career than you are. So there's a lot of insight and wisdom to learn during your 3 to 6 months here at the initiative. But we're going to do a little throwback, because Belinda was actually an intern when WHIAANHPI was WHIAANHPI, so without the Native Hawaiian distinction. So Belinda, you were an intern during the WHIAANHPI era. What has life been like since you've been with WHIAANHPI, and what changes have you seen?
Oh, this is a really loaded question, because I think it's almost been a decade now since I've been with WHIAANHPI. Still have to challenge myself with the difference in the acronym sounds, but I like to think of my journey since then as kind of broken out into personal and professional, because like Elizabeth just mentioned, I felt like one of the things the internship really sparked in me on a personal level is the amount of commitment and activism that I wanted to continue with my community. And it has really followed me since. One of the ways that I've been doing that is with my involvement with Act to Change, which was actually a nonprofit born out of WHIAANHPI. Back in 2015, we started as a public awareness campaign. In 2018, we spun out into our own nonprofit. So as a founding board member, seeing that really grow and being able to directly see the impact on a project that I worked on as an intern, the Bullying Prevention Task Force, evolve into a public awareness campaign and then eventually into its own nonprofit today, that has really driven a lot of what I challenge myself on from a day-to-day basis. Professionally, though, one thing I really learned, as you just mentioned as well, Lynn, is that you get exposed to a lot of different work streams. And I really realized as an intern that I love to wear a lot of different hats. And that in some ways, both helped and hurt me throughout my career paths, because I ended up trying a lot of different careers. So after WHIAANHPI, one of the things I heard a lot from all of the staff members there is there's a lot of lawyers on the Hill, but not enough MBAs. So I enrolled myself in an MBA program. I eventually found myself as a strategy consultant in the education industry, did another career path change to become a software engineer to have greater impact in the tech world. And then now I find myself as a product manager, and now AI is like at the forefront of everything. And I think being able to switch between all of these different skill sets and still have a lot of folks from my WHIAANHPI days like Jamie be mentors to me and be able to inspire me has really made all the difference too.
Thank you so much, Belinda. It's so awesome to hear about the types of careers that people can pursue after doing like a public service or government internship. I think it just goes to say that you never know what type of skills or people you're going to meet. And there's such a diversity. And I feel like you often think about opportunities like these as being very narrow, but I think they're a lot more expansive than how they may seem. So I'd like to thank Xiao, Alyssa, Elizabeth, and Belinda for taking time out today to come speak to us. And I'm going to hand it back over to Gabe. Thank you to everyone who came and listened to our intern alums share their wisdom.
All right, let's give them another round of applause, everyone out there in the audience. So with that, salamat kayo, and thank you so much, Lynn, Chow, Alyssa, Elizabeth, and Belinda for sharing your stories with us. Like, again, it's truly amazing to hear the great work you all have done since being with us, whether that be Belinda, you talking about active change, Alyssa, you talked about grad school, Elizabeth, the national strategy rollout, Chow, the great talking points that you have produced, and even Lynn, just the great content that you put out on the weekly basis. So we are just so lucky. And as always, I'd really like to say our WHIAANHPI family runs strong, and we're always looking forward to welcoming new folks like you all in the audience to joining us. So let's give a little goodbye to our audience here. Say peace out. Little finger hearts. All right. See y'all.